sort of simplistic things like um, value propositions, like $1 can provide 4 meals. And that is a really fantastic thing. And we're proud of that as an organization, but it really doesn't speak to the outcome of our clients and why we're doing the work and who we're serving. Additionally, on a lot of our acquisition pieces, we'll show a person experiencing homelessness. Again, maybe that just sort of plays into their perception of who the food bank serves. And we really view that as an entry point to the conversation. And while we do a lot of work to serve the unhoused population here in Central Texas, that's really not the focus of our work, right? There are so many people experiencing food insecurity, primarily people who have a roof over their head and somebody working in the home, families with kids, and so if that is the type of appeal that inspires somebody to make a gift to the food bank and start their journey with us, we're willing to do that. But we really want to then use that opportunity to take them on a much longer journey to understand what the food bank is doing and why their support is so important.
That's a challenge. I have so many questions I thought of as you were speaking. First of all, I noticed you use the word acquisition pieces. In other words, that's like donor acquisition. You're trying to, right, okay. And then you had some notes. You didn't mention this. You said acquisition pieces featuring men experiencing homelessness.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah, and we've been doing these types of things over the years, and we literally can test, the efficacy of different appeals in terms of what's on the mailer. We have such a broad base community support, so we're mailing tens of thousands of pieces of mail at any given time, and so that affords us the opportunity to do some tests on messaging and imagery. And what we found is for first-time donors, a lot of times that image of an older person experiencing homelessness, specifically a man, tends to get people to open the envelope and read the letter and make their first donation. So it's pretty fascinating, yeah.
Yeah.
And there's 211 food banks across the country. We all share a lot of this same information, and we're certainly not the only food bank that is has the same data, right? It's one of those things that may shift over time as the dialogue around food insecurity changes, but that's sort of where we are right now. I mean, I think this pandemic has really brought food banks to the forefront of the conversation in communities in a way that they never have before. So hopefully people will start digging in and learning more about what we're doing.
In our meetup last month, we talked about acquiring new donors. And so a question that comes to mind is when you say you send out tens of thousands of mail pieces, where did you get your prospects? Do your board give you, do you have we provided a toolkit that had a prospect ID form in it to give to board members, staff, volunteers. Do you guys do that? How else, and if not, how else do you prospect for new donors?
Yeah, I mean, from a broad-based perspective like that, we work with a mail house that rents lists. So that would be people that are on magazine subscription lists that tie into our sort of key psychographic of donor, right? So we look at our historical success rate of donors that we have in our database and who they are, and then we try to align with lists that we can rent. We do zip code saturation mailings, so we'll pick very specific zip plus fours that have demographics and income data that align with prospective donors to the food bank, and then we'll literally mail every single household in that zip code. That type of, yeah.
Okay. That means if you're looking in your database also for that historical data, you have to collect that data from your donors. How do you do that? I mean, I know when you get a new donor, obviously you get the contact information and all that, but how do you get more in-depth information about your donors?
Yeah, I mean, once they become a donor, they've provided that contact information, and then really the next step is, taking them on a journey, and we certainly do a lot of work. If a donor is a mid-level or major donor, we have staff and strategies that are dedicated to outreach and trying to connect with those donors and learn more information about them. Um, you know, we immediately put them, when they become a donor, they immediately receive a welcome kit, and it explains, hey, this is how your relationship with the food bank is going to be. We're going to start sending you newsletters, and this is what you should expect from us. Just basically just letting them know, like, hey, we're acknowledging that you just made your first gift to the food bank, and we're really excited about that, and you're going to come on a journey with us, and we're going to provide more information for you. So we send a lot of stewardship pieces that are not solicitations to try to take them a little deeper into the work of the food bank. Tell those stories of things like our nutrition education programming, our garden programming, our after-school meal programs. All of those things that they might not be aware that we do, and their importance, and then also tell the stories of the clients that we're serving, so that they can really know where their dollars are going and how they're making an impact, and hear real stories from our clients around how this work and this service has changed their lives. And that's really the important thing for us, so that we can figure out what is inspiring their giving, and possibly get them inspired about something they didn't even know that they were going to be excited about supporting.
Cynthia, who I told you about because she works at the place that you used to work at,
Yeah.
she asks, would you recommend renting this for a smaller nonprofit? What should you consider when thinking of going this route?
Yeah, it's really it's hard to say. So Project Transitions is an example of an organization that I think might struggle with that, but I think there are some possibilities there. With basic needs, it definitely makes a lot of sense, just because people are willing to. It's a simple idea, and you don't need that deeper sort of education to get them inspired to support work, right? This idea of like, hey, if you don't make this donation, somebody could go hungry, is a really simple idea, versus, the incredible work of Project Transitions, which, I'm deeply, care about for obvious reasons as a former employee, is a little more nuanced and a harder story to tell. But I do think that, there is something there, and it may not be at the scale that the food bank does, but I think it's a possibility. It would just require some work, and really testing, and I think measuring ROI on that, to see if it's worthwhile to continue to do. And that's really what we do as well. I mean, it costs us money in the short term to do acquisition mailings, for example, right? We actually net negative dollars within that first year, but the long-term donor value of the donors that we actually acquire, far surpasses the cost of those acquisitions, right? So right currently, for the food bank right now, that would be, let's say, around 500-ish dollars. And if it costs me a dollar something to acquire that donor, that's a really worthwhile, endeavor for me. And that may not be the same value proposition for a smaller nonprofit that has to, put in that work to really understand that.
So, it's already 13 after, and I want to ask you this last question. You started already talking about this, but it's, how do you take a donor from supporting your mission with a gift to buy meals to truly investing in your broader work? You talked about the welcome pack and the deeper dive, but can you keep going on
Sure.
that? Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, for us, especially with when we acquire a donor that we is making a sizable gift, we have many people that will reply to one of our mailers, and mail in $1,000+ without ever interacting with our organization, which is fantastic. But they might have capacity to do much more if they knew. So we try to figure out if we can meet them for coffee, if we can get them to the food bank for a tour, so that we can show them this place, which is
Okay.
often our most incredible tool.
I have a question. Who's we?
Me and my staff. Yeah, I have a team. So we're on the development side. I think we're 6 or 7 people strong at this point, but we have a major gifts program here, and we're dedicated weekly meetings to walk through our prospects and try to develop strategies and figure out if we can have meetings with them. So that's one of the things we do, and then we take them on the journey when we get them here, showing them our facility and walking them through our programming while they're here is really, really a fantastic tool. And there's many times when we take them on that journey and they're still just happy to say, hey, I just want to provide meals because y'all do a lot with my dollars. And then there are other times where they're so inspired by our nutrition education or our garden programming, and they want to dig in and learn more about that and support those programs and make restricted gifts that help us grow or expand those types of things. So it's really just about that, getting them in and learning what's going to inspire them to make a bigger, more substantive and long-term investment to us to help us just do more of what we need to do.
So that's the visual of them coming and seeing is so important. We do have other questions, but we're not going to have time. One of them is about storytelling. So, I'm thinking later you can, I don't know if you're in the group, but if you aren't, you could join the group. Maybe Aunt Cynthia had a question for you that you might want to answer a little bit later. I just try to stay really committed to the time frame because we've got nonprofit leaders, as you know, for yourself, everybody's so busy. And I totally appreciate the time you took to do this and find it fascinating that your network is so big. It's exciting to hear about that you can send out 10,000 mailing pieces. One quick question, is your board involved in any fundraising efforts?
The board, yeah, they're definitely involved in fundraising. They're really fantastic in supporting, our handful of key initiatives that's really easy to plug them into. Amplify Austin is a perfect example of an area where they get plugged in. We do an in-person sort of gala-ish event, very small but mighty event here at the food bank, and that's a really fantastic opportunity they use to plug in and bring their high capacity and dedicated friends that want to support the food bank. And then they themselves are have a fundraising committee that works to fundraise internally and externally. So.
Oh, excellent, excellent. Just want to do a quick reminder to everybody to come to next month's meetup because we're doing something I think is somewhat new to Austin. Sorrow, I'm glad to see you here today because I really want to talk to you about this. We are going to have a meetup on community-centric fundraising, which is very big on the West Coast. It's essentially through a diversity, equity, and inclusion lens. And I've got a speaker from Seattle, I believe. She's from Seattle. I'm very excited. So I want everybody to come to that. You'll see more about that in this group. Mark, again, thank you very much. And I'm glad that we got to meet, even though it's so brief. I'm just excited about the work you do. Thank you.
Happy to do it. Thank you.
And thank you, everybody, for coming today. And we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.